When Gowon now mounted the stage, Ojukwu said, "No, Gowon, you are my junior."
Welcome on Nabo TV Live this wonderful day. My name is Chili Peters. I shall be taking you on a very sensitive topic called what actually brings about restructuring Nigeria. Why are people talking about restructuring? Clamor for structuring, is it a thing of today or has it happened in the past? We'll be in the studio to have an in-depth insight into this demand. It's not that person than Gray Almona. Gray Almona, you are very much wonderful on Noble TV Live.
Thank
Of
you.
course,
Great to be with
it's
you.
an interrogation. We want to interrogate him now. Tell me more. We have continued to have issues of restructuring. How come we come about restructuring Nigeria?
Okay. There's no way you talk about restructuring in Nigeria's development process without venturing into that winding corridor, we call political history. And actually, there's no way you talk about political history without connecting with the economy. So the concept of restructuring has dimensions that are relevant to the development and praxis of the economic system, as a derivative, of the political system. But because time is vital to our purpose, let's get straight to business. Restructuring, as a phenomenon, has developed both in the concept of in conservative context and in what I call the dynamic objective context. The conservative context is a revisit of Nigeria's constitutional history. After it was obvious to the interface, the difficult interface between the British ruling class, represented by the system, bequeathed to Nigeria after 1900, when the colonial office formally annexed what later became Nigeria. The Sir Hugh Clifford, promulgated the Clifford's Constitution of 1922, and it did not give accent to the aspirations of the indigenous elite, because restructuring, the demand for restructuring, is an attempt to, ensure that the objective material conditions under which the indigenous elite are defined as relevant socio-political units are favorable. So after it was the apparent failure of the Clifford's Constitution to address the aspirations of the development process, the agitation, by the indigenous elite, Herbert Macaulay, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Ayo Rosiji, Obafemi Awolowo, Ahmadu Bello, it now led to the promulgation of the Sir Arthur Clifford's Richard's Constitution of 1946. That actually created what I call the conservative context for the demand for restructuring, because Sir Richard's Constitution tried to, introduce regionalism, and instead of looking outwards to create a kind of a canvas for unity, solidarity, of what later became Nigeria, it kind of created a process by which the indigenous elite started to look inwards. Now, we should not forget that it was this period too that the 1946 Constitution was the Constitution of Richards was promulgated in 1946, just 2 years after the Igbo Federal Union was formed, and not quite long, the Egbe Omoduduwa was also formed. So it unleashed rather centrifugal forces, in the development process. So that did not create the necessary institutional leeway. It was only in 1951 that an attempt was made to actually address the demands of the nature of the evolving society, appeared to actually affect the need for unity and true resolution of a Nigerian state. That was the 1951 Macpherson Constitution, preceded immediately by the Ibadan Constitutional Conference of 1950, in which all the elite gathered say, how do we address our movement to self-definition, what Wole Soyinka calls self-definition. Self-definition is ability of a people, ability of an individual to achieve self-realization, in the midst of a contending forces. With Macpherson, we did not actually create the leeway, so there was another movement towards Oliver Littleton. Because the British ruling class kept sending, representatives. So these people are not satisfied. From Sir Hugh Clifford, 1922, to Sir Arthur Richards in 1946. Then from Arthur Richards to Sir John Macpherson in 1951. Still no satisfaction. Okay, Oliver Littleton, go there to Lagos, Ibadan, address these indigenous elite frustrations because they represent the people. See what they're doing so that we can have understanding. You see, Peter, Chidi, the important thing. All this while, both the indigenous elite and the British ruling class did not come to what psychologists will call the psychological moment. The moment when contender or a resistant force and a predator, they have a contradictory relationship. There's no way you escape that historical point. The relationship between the British ruling class and the Nigerian indigenous elite was a contradictory one. So the failure of the various constitutional movements to reach a point where there would be consensus, summarizes conflict. From Macpherson in 1951 to Oliver Littleton in 1954. By 1954, Egbo Modudo had blossomed into Action Group. Igbo Federal Union blossomed into National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, which later crystallized according to contending social forces. So, National Council of Nigeria Citizens, built around the returnee from US, the stormy petrol, the enfant terrible of nationalism, Nnamdi Azikiwe. He drew a lot too from his relationship with Sir Louis Odumegwu-Ojukwu because, Sir Louis Odumegwu-Ojukwu, he was not a graduate, but he had that sharp perception of contending centripetal and centrifugal forces in an evolving state, and to let him know that these things had better be addressed, otherwise it will be a failure. So from one rigmarole to another, the Independence Constitution only giving a kind of superficial facade of problem solving. There was independence in 1960. But this issue of how the regions and the center will have a relationship was not conclusively addressed. So it was kind of a loose idea. And that period, that interval, we will not fail to notice that the regions had greater leverage. Because with the existence of the marketing boards in Western Nigeria and Eastern Nigeria and all other places, it was easy for the Awolowo regime in the Western region to put in place certain economic structures that did not even give credence to a centralization of resources again. So there was this movement towards a greater federation until the coup of January 1966. But in between that period too, political crisis emanating from failure, of the elite to arrive at consensus, NCNC aligned with the MPC, and Action Group was isolated. At the end of the day, a coalition government was formed, and that still did not address the relationship between the center and the regions. So the historical force that actually brought everything to the front burner, to create a kind of, this is inevitability of revolution. According to Tolstoy, there was this Russian scholar, Tolstoy. He talked about the inevitability of revolution. Professor Mafuma Onoge of blessed memory also talked about it. Revolutionary forces, they have an inevitability that cannot be dispensed with. And that did not come until the counter coup of July 29, 1966, which led to the murder of Agui Ironsi. And that agitation came from none other than Chukwuemeka Odumegwu-Ojukwu, when it was obvious that there was a kind of a regional flux, and they could not really account for who eventually dictate the pace. Brigadier Ogundipe left, so Ironsi had been pushed out of the scene. When Gowon now mounted the stage, Ojukwu said, "No, Gowon, you are my junior. I cannot be amenable to you."
That is the much we can take because of time.
Yes.
To cut it short, of course, this is the part 1 of history in retrospect, for you to know and be educated, also get entertained. This is Novel TV Live. Don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. With me in the studio is no other person than Great Almona. I'm Chidi Peters. Bye bye for now, and wait for part 2.